for me to live in Sydney, just for a bit of context, I get paid well for someone my age. Top 2% for my age, okay? And for me to live in Sydney, for the top 2% of people my age, I can barely do it. It's ridiculous. Like, 6 fig, unable to live in Sydney because I want to live in an apartment in Ryde. Not even in the city. I want to live in Ryde. It's a nice area, but it's not in the city. And I've got to pay $700 a week for rent. Nice apartment. But still, nah, I don't want to do that. But I'm gonna. Because I can afford to now. But if there wasn't someone like me who was willing to, work 24/7, starved. You're starved. I'm sorry. And if you don't have cake before that as well, like I don't have bread before. This is like my first full-time job. So I don't have bread before. So I'm just going in with just a cheeky little bit of cake that I have from just living at home previously. And I've been working full-time for 2 months now. So it's like not even that much. So I'm like, it's not ideal. Let's just say that. And bear in mind, I'm not even getting a car. That's the other thing. Most people will get a car. So think about that. Plus 20K. Just for a car. And you might say, just go on for 5K. Sure. If you go on for 5K, you still have to pay like upwards of 4K for all the stupid registrations. Your license. All these dumb petrol. No, thank you. So minimum 10K. Minimum 10K on top of that, just for transport. And I'm not going to get a car because I don't leave the house, firstly. But secondly, I just don't want to pay for it, right? That's why I'm going to steal one.
Good luck to my ancestors.
Hope they're well.
Hope they're well.
Great little caviar.
Very good caviar.
It is absolutely boiling today. I am in my room. It's like a sauna in here. I've got the worst insulation in the house and I can't do much about it. But nonetheless, we persist because we are persistent, obviously. Now, this episode is going to be about just a recent thing in my life, which is cost of living in Australia. It's crazy. First things first, it's crazy. But we'll get into that a little bit later. Nah, stuff it. It's ridiculous. It honestly is ridiculous. Let's get straight into it because it's dead. Now, let's not get straight into it. Let me just do a few plugs here and there. A few updates even. Okay, SCULPTED app. Cooking. We're getting things moving. Launch a few months away. Let's go. SCULPTED podcast. Yeah, this has got to do with the cost of living thing. But cooking, we'll get onto it. And ideally, there's a few things down the line that will be nice. We'll see. But nonetheless, podcast, cool, yeah, swag. For anyone who's listening for the first time, I say it unironically. No, definitely don't say that. I say it ironically, not unironically. Caviar, where are we? Live free. I got a wok and a stir fry because that thing's cooking. Now, the other project that I'm a part of, actually, which I haven't once said on the podcast before, is B42. Now, I am a part of a really, really cool company based out of Germany, and I've actually had the founder on this podcast before. Big ups, Andreas, my man. Andy is one of the best people in my life. He's awesome. And we are working together on his app. It's been around for about 7 years now, B42, based in Germany. I actually knew about them during my time playing football in Germany, and that's how I met Andy. It was actually on my last day of being in the country. Andy messaged me. We went to have a meeting, and I missed it. No, I didn't miss it. I had to reschedule it. And then we lost contact ever since there. And then we found contact like 2 months later once I was back in Australia when we both realized we were messaging the wrong number because he was messaging my international number and an X, Y, and Z, and we just never got onto each other. And I'm like, LinkedIn, hello. And we got back to each other. And it was great. And kicked it up ever since then. Then I started working for B42 in the beginning of the year, and it's been awesome. Been taking up a lot of responsibility there. And we're growing. It's a lot of pressure. But what's pressure? It's only one of many. I don't really feel it. I feel stressed sometimes, but quite honestly, I need a little bit of stress. It's good. So, been working on that as well. Got a lot of things on my teller, German word for plate. Quick one. And it's crazy at the moment. And this morning, just another thing, just another hurdle. And it's not necessarily like a setback of anything. It's more like it's just a time to do so. But it just comes with its own challenges. And these are the things that you just don't equate for. But I always knew it was going to be difficult. But also, it just makes me think like, why wasn't I taught this at school? Live free. See what I did there? Plug. And finding an apartment in Sydney is ridiculous. Now, for a bit of context, I live in Central Coast. It's like the poor person's Sydney. If you can't afford to live in Sydney, live in the Central Coast. It's where the peasants live. Not my words. Because I'm one of them. If you believe so. I think we're cool. Maybe. Sometimes. Occasionally. There's cool people who come from the Central Coast. And I'm one of them. Wait, no. Maybe I'm not one of the cool people. Judge if you will. But I'm from the Central Coast. Anyways. I got a bit of a problem, which is going off topic. But nonetheless, we're back on topic now. From the Central Coast, I want to move to Sydney because that's where it's at. I don't have to go to Sydney every day to have meetings, to meet up with people and etc. because it takes me like 2 hours to get there one way, which I'm not going to do. And I don't want a car. Stop having a car. Stop paying 20 grand for something that just gets me from place A to place B and it's 5 kilometers. I could run that distance. So I'm not going to get a car. And I need a car on the Central Coast. So I need to move to Sydney. But if I want to move to Sydney, I need to pay 700 Australian dollars a week for rent, 100 Australian dollars a week for utilities. I need to eat. Need is an exaggeration, of course. I fast. I fast a lot. And I'm not saying that I run fast. I don't run that much. But I fast each day, which means I eat a little bit less. Although food costs a lot of money in Australia as well. So my cost of living is almost $1,000 a week. Now that's hectic. Like that's crazy. I'm 20. I think that's a little bit crazy. Now that's like just to get by. That's not really even equating for like gym or anything like that. Like the essentials, it's really like borderline 1,000. So, you know, that's 52 grand a year. Most kids my age, they're probably only getting 52 grand after tax. That means that they don't have any freedom to, you know, do stuff or create a business or anything like that. It's so limiting. And if you want to live out of home, you're starved. Like you're starved. You can't. Unless you're already caked, which you might be if you live in Sydney, but if you're from where I live on the Central Coast, you're not caked. Like that's just part of the parcel. You're from Central Coast, you're poor. Otherwise, you'd be living in Sydney. Fact. So I have to do everything myself. Now, not that I'm, you know, annoyed that I have to do everything myself. I quite like that, but it just means that it's so much more difficult. Now, I am aware of how privileged I am to even be calling living in Sydney difficult. Don't come at me in the comments. Freudian slip. Don't come at me in the comments saying that, oh, you're so privileged. Yeah, I know I'm privileged, but you know what I think is more disrespectful? To not use your privilege. I think not using your privilege is more disrespectful. So I'm gonna freaking use that thing. I'm gonna use that privilege that I got. So, nonetheless, we're gonna move to Sydney because I have the capacity to. And it's gonna be better for my life. So why not? If I wasn't using my privilege, get angry at them people who aren't using their privilege. If you've got the privilege, freaking use it because you can't give other people privilege. Get the most out of it so that then you can help the others. Simple. Maths. 2 + 2 = 4. Maths. Use your privilege. Quote me. Put that on a t-shirt instead of Tottenham Hotspurs. I don't go for them, by the way. So don't flame me. Not really. Don't watch football. But if I was, I'd probably go for Chelsea FC, not Tottenham. Oh, goodness me. This is what I mean. I do have a bad habit of going off topic. But nonetheless, let's get back on topic. Sydney. 50k a year to live in Sydney? Bare min? Like eating $60 worth of food a week? That's like just oats and lentils. And that's not bad. Like I've done that before. Trust me. When I was living in Germany, I was paying 500 euros a month for my apartment. And then like $2 a week for food. I've lived a life, you could say. So I know how to be on struggle lane. But now I don't need to be on struggle lane because we're moving in the right direction. And for me to live in Sydney, just for a bit of context, I get paid well for someone my age. Top 2%. for my age, okay? And for me to live in Sydney, for the top 2% of people my age, I can barely do it. It's ridiculous. Like, 6 fig, unable to live in Sydney because I want to live in an apartment in Ryde. Not even in the city. I want to live in Ryde. It's a nice area, but it's not in the city. And I've got to pay $700 a week for rent. Nice apartment. But still, nah, I don't want to do that. But I'm gonna. Because I can afford to now. But if there wasn't someone like me who was willing to, work 24/7, starved. You're starved. I'm sorry. And if you don't have cake before that as well, like I don't have bread before. This is like my first full-time job, so I don't have bread before. So I'm just going in with just a cheeky little bit of cake that I have from just living at home previously. And I've been working full-time for 2 months now, so it's like not even that much. So I'm like, it's not ideal. Let's just say that. And bear in mind, I'm not even getting a car. That's the other thing. Most people will get a car. So think about that. Plus 20K. Just for a car. And you might say, just go on for 5K. Sure, if you go on for 5K, you still have to pay like upwards of 4K for all the stupid registrations, your license, all these dumb petrol. No, thank you. So minimum 10K. Minimum 10K on top of that, just for transport. And I'm not going to get a car because I don't leave the house, firstly. But secondly, I just don't want to pay for it, right? That's why I'm going to steal one. Not going to go well if I actually ever got in trouble for that. Because I might steal one. Wouldn't put it past me. Because I'm like a go-getter. Like, if I say something, I'm going to go do it. That's just me. It's a lie. No, it's not a lie. But in this context, I wouldn't steal a car. Again, off topic. But moving to Sydney, it's so expensive. Okay? I cannot really afford to do it. So what did I do? Okay, yeah, business. But yeah. Okay, now we're on a bit more than the normal salary. We can do it now. A few tax write-offs here and there. Yep. Oh, also, I have to pay tax. Taxes. An expletive that I wouldn't say on camera, but I would say it in the confidence of friends. And tax is annoying, but you got to pay it because I know what happens if you don't. Not ATO, DFO in Germany. I don't know what the Deutsche Federation of Tax would be, but yeah, anyways, that one. I've got to, pay tax. So then my actual, salary that I take home is borderline just living stuff. So if I want to move to Sydney for career advancement, then I really have to be a slave to working. Not that I don't mind that. I can be a slave to working. I am a slave to working because I want to, create something better than where I am right now, which is completely fine and I have no issue with it. But for the average person, best of luck. Now, I'll give a bit more caveat to this, which is, yes, I am choosing to live in a nice apartment. I don't have to pay so much. But the reason why I want to live out of home is so I don't have to live in the current house that I'm in. It's not that it's bad. It's a nice house. I've lived up middle class in Australia. Although, I'm on a good salary. I want to live a bit nicer because I can. Ideally. I guess that's the whole context of the video. I can't. But anyways, I want to live in a house and I want to live with my boys. No Diddy. So Alfio, I'm gonna, get him to live with me in Yeshua, and I want to pay for my boys as well. Now, also, it's not that much more just to pay $100 a week more for my apartment rather than getting a 1-bedroom. So I'm just gonna pay for it, and that's fine. Again, you could make that claim that I don't have to spend that much. You're right, and I could also find someone who wants to pay 50-50 for me. But firstly, no one my age can afford to pay 50-50. No one can even afford to pay $350 a week if they're my age. Okay, there are the odd exception, but if I wanted to get a friend to pay that, they're full-time at uni. And guess what? They've probably got 40K in student debt anyways. And this is another thing. This is why it's all my ideology coming out into real-time fruition here. It's because most people are in debt and they can't even afford to pay their apartment. Here, me, haven't touched a day in uni, on 6 figures, first full-time job ever in my life, and I'm struggling, but I'm in a better position than these guys who can't even live in an apartment for the next 5 years because they're full-time at uni. And then as soon as they get out of their job, ideally they'd be in a nice job, but getting to 6 figures from your first full-time job is not the easiest thing to do. Now, maybe if they choose a good career, maybe they can. If they can, cool. But guess what? You still got to pay off your uni debt. Sucks. It sucks. And guess what? Then you have to get a car, and then all of a sudden, it's not like my career like flatlined. I'm probably on a similar salary anyways. But now I'm just ahead of you. And that's not to say that don't go to uni. But if you're someone who backs yourself to get around it, then don't, because it's a waste. In my humble opinion, for me at least, it is definitely a waste. Because I'm not gonna go become a doctor. I'm not gonna go become a dentist. I'm not gonna go become a physician. You know, those guys. Yeah, I would want my, physio to have a degree in rubbing legs, not just a self-taught rubbing leg guy. You get what I'm saying? I don't want, the open heart surgeon to be a self-taught open heart surgeon. I think that's one of the funniest concepts ever. Like LinkedIn. A lot of people will have like self-taught heart open surgery operator. Like practice. What's that game where you do the like the doctor game where you Australians know this game. If you're Australian and you live in Australia, you know this game. He's got the red nose. If you touch the edges, it goes meep. Self-taught heart surgeon or whatever it's called. And that's in his that's the funniest concept. I make myself laugh. That's sad. Anyways, where am I? This is my problem. I think I was talking about how it's expensive, right? University. Yeah, I don't want... Okay, yeah, people go to university. Cool. Yeah, go to university. But if you can be self-taught, not an open heart, brethren, but somewhere where you can be self-taught, and you have good capacity to do so, and you have good career trajectory, maybe don't become like a self-taught Coles assistant employee. You get what I mean? But like, if you can be self-taught, self-teach yourself, that's something that's going to, excel growth or whatever. Cool. Done. Dusted. Uni, not for me. Will never be for me because I don't want to do anything along the lines of that. Because I've already proven that I don't need a uni. I was going to say something there, but that would have, confirmed the claims, Mr. McLaughlin, if you're listening. But yes, don't. No, it's difficult. It's really difficult. And honestly, the only way that I've now got around it, and I don't even know if I have got around it, I've just tried to, move a few moving parts, and then I'm thinking, okay, yeah, it looks more possible. It's really difficult for anyone who's ambitious to make their dreams a reality. Now, again, I am someone who is trying to do much more than just a few little, I want to become a doctor or anything like that. Let's say if you did want to become a doctor and you're from rural New South Wales, best of luck to you, honestly. I wish you the best. And if I had the funds to do so, I would honestly fund you. Because it's so difficult. And the worst thing is that we need people like that. We need people who are doctors. And that's something that's the worst thing. Because it's like, for people who don't have the capacity to fund themselves or whatever, then that's really, really ropes. Like, that's really ropes. So it should be so much easier. Now, I believe there may be things like that help students. I think Alfio's going to get that. But if you want to get a good university degree and go into a city like Sydney, it's really, really difficult to do so because then you can't live, food, etc. And then, most people want like a, whatever you call a social life, whatever that weird thing is. They want that. Cost money, probably. I don't know. Maybe it's free. I don't know. You're asking the wrong guy. But those types of things, it makes it really, really difficult. And all of a sudden, chasing your dreams in 2025 for an Australian person is borderline impossible. Now, of course, you can work your way around it. You can be smart. You can do all these different things. But the reality is most people won't do that. And also most people won't put in the effort to find these loopholes, right? Again, there's also a risk of finding these loopholes. Like for me, the loophole that I've found isn't dependent on myself necessarily. It's dependent on business. And the businesses have to work out. And I'm saying this in terms of actually the loophole that I'm trying to figure out right now is I will invest in people. And ideally, they will then make me money back. And ideally, they'll make themselves money. And that's risky. It's risky. And it might not even work. If it doesn't work, I can still do it. But if you didn't have that, then it's borderline impossible. Like, unless your parents are helping you, which quite honestly, like if you're 20, they shouldn't. Because you're 20, right? You're an adult. But where we live in now, the political and economic state of the world, Jaden Smith, if no one got that reference, is clapped. Like, how are you meant to do so? And that's the really difficult part. So, as I said, put out a GoFundMe if you are a doctor living in, I don't know. Oh, that was so risky. I was about to do an Aboriginal town name, and I was going to do it. You know how you do it, and I'm not going to do it. But I was going to do it. And if you're living out in one of those, really remote places, you're starved. Like, it's really ropes. So that's why you should watch Live Free. Now, Live Free is an educational platform helping you with things you weren't taught in school. Coming soon. Anyways, caveat. So difficult to live in Australia, make things work, and it's honestly horrible. It's disgusting. Disgusting is an exaggeration, but you got what I mean. It is really ropes. So, if you are young, if you are trying to chase after your dreams, give up. You're not going to get there. That's the least sculpted thing I've ever said. I'm kidding. Just go for it. But best of luck. You got to think a lot smarter now. All of a sudden, if you want to become a doctor, you might have to become an entrepreneur on the side. You might have to become a salesperson on the side. You might have to do, remote work. And if you do want to do sales, hit me up. I got a few jobs for you. Commission only 25%. Let me know. business@livefree.live. Hit the email up. And that's just the reality of it. You've got to really do a little bit more than just your career at the moment. And that sucks. So, yeah. There's got to be something that changes, quite honestly. And vote 1, Nick Craddockville, I reckon. You know what I'd do on my first day of office? Invade New Zealand, probably. No. I wouldn't do that. I'd invade Tasmania. No. I wouldn't do that either, actually. They're Australia. I don't know what I'd do. But yeah, vote 1, Nick Craddockville. I'll do something about it. Just give me a mind map on FigJam or something, and then I'll just put it in a backlog in Jira. Create some Figma pages, move a few, get a spreadsheet done, make a nice pitch deck, sales deck, one of the best, and then try and raise some capital. Maybe 250 million pre-seed. Get the folks on board. That's such a dead joke. And no one gets that. Anyway, long story short, move countries, because it's so much easier outside of Australia. Take that from someone who lived in Germany. Now, Germany's also a bit spenny, but there's also things outside of the major capitals. Like, actually, to be fair, Brisbane's a little bit better. Melbourne, I don't know. Brisbane's a little bit better. Perth, don't go to Perth, apparently. But in Germany, I was living a pretty nice life in Bayreuth. 500 a month. 500 euros a month is good. And it was really nice. It was really nice. Not that it's in a good city or whatever, but you could get to the nice cities much easier than I can from Central Coast. Negligible. But anyways, I'll just say it for the sake of the plot. And it's just so much more affordable. Now, also, I think you get paid more in Germany. I'm sure there's a lot of cost of living crises all over the world, but Australia's just ropes as well. I guarantee you that when I try and get my first house as well, if I get my first house, most likely it's going to be a subsidiary company based in Cook Islands, whose grandmother's father's Apple great-grandfather's son, whose iPhone charger actually used a debit card to pretty much use the sedimentary rocks to tessellate around the Earth's circumference. That would be the way I owned my house. But if I was to do that the proper way, where I just buy the house or whatever, or however it works, watch Live Free, you figure it out. I don't know how it works, because I didn't watch Live Free. But that way, I think it's going to be even more ropes, because I'm pretty sure it costs a lot of money to buy a house, right? Right? So either what's going to happen, and this is Nick putting in his future predictions, either there are going to be more cities in Australia now that are low-cost cities that are more remote, which also brings its own troubles. But essentially, Australia's either going to have to invest into more remote areas to build up a metropolitan area, which will ideally drive the house prices of the booming industries such as Sydney and etc. And ideally, this will then bring up the average person to a good enough level to where, the difference between Sydney and a remote area isn't as drastic. Now, of course, the CBD areas will always be more expensive, but it probably also means that you'll have a bit more money going out into remote places because there might be more of demand for business. And then also you'll have a bit more diversity there, which is honestly maybe the best way around it. And that's why vote 1 Nick. Just putting it out there. If you do ballot paper, I don't vote in Australia. It's another thing I don't do in Australia. I don't vote in Australia. I'm exempt, just in case you're wondering. I don't not do it just cause I'm exempt. They don't let people like me who are so irresponsible vote, so they banned me from voting. That's a lie. I just took myself off when I was in Germany because I got fined by accidentally not voting one time. But I get fined. Clean sheet on my driving license, so that's cool. Anyways, caveat, vote 1, Nick Craddockville. Yeah, we've got to have more areas outside of the main CBD, Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, Gold Coast, these areas. We've got to have more areas outside that are becoming more bustling areas for business, because business brings more people, which brings more money. And I think that this is honestly the best solution off the top of my head from speaking to no one listening to this episode right now. And if that is the best scenario, then I'm going to invest into those places next, probably. So once I make enough bread, they call me schnitzel all the way and breaded. That's a good one. Don't copy it, but that's my saying. They call me schnitzel all the way and breaded. I just thought of that off the top of my dome one time. Off the top of the dome one time. And yeah, that's my saying. But yeah, that's pretty much the plan. It's just invest into those areas because that's where they're going to be bustling in the future. And I'm sorry, it's ropes out there. If you are struggling, don't ask me what to do. Ask Scott Albanese or whatever his name is. I don't even know who the president of Australia is. By the way, I know the Prime Minister isn't a president, and I also know it's not Scott Albanese. It's not even a guy. I was just saying it to be funny, right? Relax. It's like friggin' Malcolm Turnbull or something. It's a joke. I know it's not him. But I don't know who the president of Australia is. Parliament of Australia. I did say that unironically the other day. The Parliament of Australia. I also there's a video out there of me saying the wrong capital of Australia was Sydney. It was I don't know, 20, 30 episodes ago, and we're doing a quiz, and it was what is the capital of Australia? And I said Sydney so confidently, the most confident I've ever. I think I laughed at how dumb of a question it was. I was like, Sydney. And then answer, Canberra. And I was like, I'm not Australian. I am not Australian. I'm very Australian. I'm not very Australian. I'm Australian though. Forza Australia. Anyways, that's my spiel today. It's been ropes, and it will be ropes. And quite honestly, any money that I make, tax brackets as well. If I go above 145 or something, whatever it is, I'm then taxed 37%. If I go above 180, I'm taxed 43% or something. 42.5 or something. And that's not even that far off. It's really not that crazy for me to get up to that price in the next few months, weeks, no, months. If I get to that, then so much of my money is being just given out. And again, it's not like that's a bad thing necessarily, because we do need to see, the money go to the right places, but it's ropes. It's ropes. I'd be happy if the taxes were, helping our cost of living, but it doesn't. There's no real incentive to pay the taxes other than you'll just get in trouble. Now, if the ATO is listening, I have paid my taxes. Well, as of Monday, no, probably after that. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I will pay them, just maybe not on time, which should be fine, by the way. Right? Please. I feel like that's an issue. Anyways, I'll figure that out when it comes. So, yeah, that was my spiel. That was my rant. Australia, if the the Prime Minister is listening, Malcolm Albanese, hire me. Or how do they even get elected? Do they get elected in Australia? I'm a product of the education system in Australia, and look at how smart I am. That right there is where your taxpayers' money's going. Not a great place, is it? I've really made myself out to be an absolute idiot this episode. Maybe I should come a little bit more correct next time. And really be articulate and quite proper and say no ums and ahs like I promised I did last time, although I realised when I watched it back that I was saying only ums and ahs. Nonetheless, this was this episode of the Sculpted Podcast. Make sure you unsubscribe and tell me to go to university and get a degree. Piss off. I say piss off as a joke. I've been told that that's swearing, but I would say it's not. Much love, appreciation, and sedentation. Ciao.
Para tu no bailo. o popozão no chão. O popozão no chão e o popozão no chão.